Peace, everyone. So I'm gonna do again with another video from the reflection. I just wanted to talk about a topic that kind of got me upset this morning, and I'm gonna just go ahead and get it started now. So basically, it's about should your child come before your spouse. Now, this topic was a topic that I was awake like literally I think at 12 a.m. midnight pretty much, and I was just scrolling through Twitter as I usually do, just having a discussion actually because Kanye released a song that's on Donda 2. It's a song that's not fully like released through his, I guess, label, but it's more so, he was trying to do like a tribute to Triple X Tentacion, I think that's how you say his name. So I was awake just having a discussion with a group of, music heads about that. And then I saw this topic on Twitter that really got me going. So like I said, it was should your spouse come before your child? And, a lot of the comments I was reading there were pretty like distasteful. A lot of them were saying how, it's not fair to make your child comes secondary to a man if you have a man that's not doing what he needs to do, or a man that's not taking care of responsibility. And it just made me think, like, for those people that left those comments, how could you sit there and honestly think that that makes sense? First of all, why are you with the man that's not doing what he's supposed to do? Why it naturally makes sense why you wouldn't want to put that man over your child in terms of doing what's necessary, or in terms of responsibility. So I thought that that was pretty crazy, because as I'm reading these comments, I'm just like, yo, like, this is really mind blowing. You know, I'm actually going to put some of them on the screen so you guys can read them for yourselves and kind of have your own assessment. So it's not just coming from me. So I like to hear your thoughts. All right. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. You can read some of those and just get back to me and let me know what you think below.
You have lost your mind. You have lost your mind. You have lost your mind.
So now that you guys have seen some of the comments, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about it? Like, do you feel as though what they were saying is correct? I mean, for me personally, I already know, like, my children do not come before my spouse. And I mean, it's crazy because I used to think that before I actually got married. And it's like, as I spend more time in my marriage, as I understand more about what me and my wife are trying to do, it kind of makes that whole thinking, as far as thinking that your children come first, like, obsolete. It's crazy because we sit here and think that, our children are so much of a need for us that, or our children are in so much of a need for us that we neglect our spouses. There's a lot of times I hear stories about how, oh, well, before the baby came, we were able to have like a healthy relationship. Things were actually on board. We were doing what we needed to do. Once the baby came, it's like things suddenly shift. And it's not to say that the shift is because of the baby, but it's just because of the focus. Like, so much of the energy and so much of the effort now goes to the child, but we neglect our spouses. Our spouses are who we got married to. We didn't get married to our children. And I feel like so many of us overlook that because we feel as though our spouses are no longer significant due to the fact now, we have this child or we have these children. We can no longer place our value where it needs to be placed. And I feel like that's incorrect. I mean, either you have to work on the proper way to balance it. That way you can find a constructive way to go about it and you can kind of have like a healthy approach. But, it's never going to work effectively if you're always putting your child first. That's another reason why I actually made a post on my Facebook. And on my Facebook, I was talking about how it's important for married couples to have uninterrupted time with each other. For me, that includes no co-sleeping. That includes the children being in bed at a certain time. And that also includes you guys being able to just focus on each other. So much of what we do as parents, or as we do as married couples, are revolved around our children. They have after school activities. We got to be there to pick them up. We got to make dinner. We got to get them ready for their homework. We got to do so much, but we neglect our spouse. That's the crazy part. Here at our house, in the Jalo residence, we make sure that the children have a firm bedtime. The children oftentimes try to break the bedtime, like, oh, can we stay up a little bit later? No. We had a long day, us as parents, and we got to be able to have our time together. During that time while the kids are asleep, my wife and I, we may catch up on some shows. We may talk about different ideas of things that we're trying to do. She may show me some things that she's trying to purchase, just some things that she has in mind. But it's hard when you have children around that are always in the way of that, you know? Nobody wants to constantly deal with the fact that a child is always going to be in the middle because a child always wants to be part of what you guys going on. And I'm not saying you guys can't have those moments where sometimes a child does, but if it's all the time, consistently, consecutively, repeatedly, you're never going to have time for each other. And it's always going to create a divide because in the back of your mind, you're needing to have that break. You're needing to have this peace, but you can't have that. That's why I think that it's so ineffective to have that mindset. You know, like I said earlier, a lot of people feel like that since the child is here, you know, your spouse is no longer important or they're an adult. They can be okay. They can manage through it. But think about how much we neglect our spouses once that happens with the children. You know, if you're constantly always putting the child first, you're constantly always thinking of what the child needs. Are you also doing the same when it comes to your spouse? You know, is that fair? You know, I may know that my spouse likes to, you know, have physical touch, but because I always have the baby sleeping in the bed with us, how can I touch, you know, my spouse? Obviously, it's going to lead to an inappropriate act that, you know, may involve the child being in the middle of that. And that's not fair. Why should a spouse have to struggle with that? And like I said, I never understood that until I got married. It took marriage for me to truly grasp that concept. Because I'm like, why would it matter? Why would it be such a big deal for you to come into a space with your spouse and you have your child there and then now your child has to feel neglected? But it's not being neglected. You can still hold value on each without neglecting one that, you know, should be held to the higher standard. Because at the end of the day, once the child leaves the house, what are you going to have left? You know, like someone on a post I made on Facebook, Bobby Drake, he said something about how empty nest syndrome is a real thing. And it's true. Look how many children leave their parents' houses and now their parents are stuck because they spent their whole lives focused on their children. They didn't create a life for themselves. They never found an opportunity to do anything that could benefit them. And now when it's time to live their lives, they can't do it. You know, it's just ridiculous to me. And I'm happy that a lot of people understand it in terms of why it should not happen, because I feel like it's a detriment. You know, so many of us spend our time married and then we wonder why once the children leave, we have nothing else in common. What you guys had in common was the children. Like, do you guys spend time going on dates? Do you spend time making extra effort and extra time for each other? Like, that uninterrupted time as adults for intimacy is key. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Sometimes after a long day, you just want to unwind. You don't want to deal with the kid always coming to, you know, hamper and what you guys got going on. Mommy, 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 daddy, daddy, daddy. Like, yo, like, don't you see how that can lead to a problem? I mean, ultimately, that's why a lot of people have nervous breakdowns when it comes to raising kids, because it's like there's no break. There's constant, always a need. Your child always needs you. And I'm not saying you have to take breaks from your children, but I'm saying that you have to learn how to prioritize your time. Make time for, you know, other things to hold more precedence than the other thing. It's not saying that it's neglecting it, but it's at the same time knowing that, okay, if I'm going to give 100% to this, I need to be able to give the other half of whatever I have to this. I mean, even 100% may seem realistic because we shouldn't give so much of ourselves to one thing that we neglect ourselves and we don't have time for ourselves. But we have to always get into that space where you just got to get in that mindset. You know, that's why I keep stressing this whole uninterrupted adult, you know, time, because it's key. Like, what better way to come home from a long day of work than just to have some wine, just to be able to chill and talk to your partner. And we know how kids are. Kids like to be in the middle of our conversations. Sometimes the things we're talking about are not kid appropriate, but when else will we have the time to talk about it for? It's always surrounded by the children. You know, that's why I wanted to talk about this topic today, because to me, this topic is necessary. It's time that we get into the mode of preparing ourselves for what matters. You know, we got married to our spouses because our spouses are who we want to be with. We can't expect that having a child is going to override that and just make it okay. No. You know, even for me, when I talked to Lisa about it, like, we had a clear understanding, like, before we had our baby, when she was pregnant, if something happened in the hospital where we had to make my apologies, guys, video got cut off. I got a lot of stuff on this phone. But yeah, back to the topic. Basically what I was saying is that, like, when our baby was born, you know, we spoke about it like prior to her birth, but we were just simply saying how if something was to happen in between, you know, the baby's, I guess, arrival and Lisa and her pregnancy, that we would choose Lisa. I mean, it sounds unfortunate, but we could always make another child. But we cannot replace the love and the nurturing that a mother could provide. How would I look raising a child by myself without having my wife right there with me? That's why I was saying, it's just as we get into this mindset of putting our spouse before our putting our children before our spouse, we have to really be mindful of what we're saying, because if anything was to go wrong, it's going to lead us into like such a world of hurt, and it's hard to recover from it. Look at the dating world right now. Like, there's so many people out here struggling that can't have success because, I mean, there's nothing available to them, and that's just so unfortunate. But it's not right that we should have to force ourselves to deal with that because we want to prove a point that, oh, our child comes before our spouse. Oh, this and this should be the case because this is how we feel. No. And that's why those tweets that I put up earlier is just a reflection of how, when we don't make proper choices, when we're doing things incorrectly, when we're dealing with people that we know that we should not be with, we're going to lead into those type of situations. But if you are able to find someone that can truly give you what you need based on a healthy perception and idea and reality of what you need, you're okay. A lot of people just stick it out with someone for the simple fact of just saying, oh, well, I have someone that I'm with. I have someone that I can make it work. No, it should never be down to that. You should always work toward progress. It should never be someone that's constantly derailing you. Why would you want to be with someone that doesn't have a job and you have a child? What do you think that's example setting? Don't you think that's kind of showing the child that it doesn't matter about priorities and responsibilities? Oh, well, they could always depend on me because I'm always be there to take care of it. No. So in that case, obviously, hello, common sense, the child should come first in that situation. But if you're in a healthy situation, you have a man that's providing, a woman that's nurturing, a man that's doing what he needs to do, a woman that's taking care of responsibilities. What more is there? Like, if the children are taken care of, what more is it? I mean, this is why I stress this, because I think from this topic that, came up earlier, it's just necessary. We have to get out of this thinking that our children are not there to come secondary to our spouses, because our spouses hold more significance. Once your child goes off and have their own family, you think that they're going to put you first? You think that they're going to put, you think that they're going to put, their children first? You think that they're always going to think of, oh, well, my mom put me first, so that's why? No. I even made a post earlier talking about it too. If my daughters ever put me before their husbands, then that means I failed them as a father. No man, no parent, no anybody should ever feel okay with their child putting them, with their child wanting to put their, family above them, when it should come down to their spouse holding more value. That's your spouse. You guys are married. You guys are supposed to be one. Even the Bible talks about this. I mean, if everybody wants to look at it from a religious standpoint, what more is there? That's perfectly clear, and that's perfectly, put to the point, just to show you, like, you know what? Okay, well, maybe this is a guide of how we should follow it and how the structure should be. And to me, that's what it is. So let me guys know what you think about it, because like I said, this topic is deep. I mean, it was like a string of posts made about this topic that I made earlier on my Facebook page, and I just had to share it because I was frustrated. Like, I'm like, there's no way that this is right. And I'm happy that, a lot of people kind of agreed, because a lot of people do understand what I said as well, and they can now see it for what it's worth. So definitely let me know your thoughts, share some feedback, and definitely share this video. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate it. I love that I'm able to share these topics with you guys, and you guys are able to, take them in. So definitely let me know what you guys think. Thank you very much. Take care.